morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox back on at 7 a.m. broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. And what a show we have for you this morning. Let's go through our guests. We're going to start with Georgia Verdier. She is the president of the local NAACP and also the newest inductee into the Steuben County Hall of Fame. And then after that, Richard Sturban from the Oak Ridge Boys. You know Elvira, of course. Major hits. Sold over 41 million records. Well, they're going to be in Hammondsport at Point of the Bluff Vineyards this Saturday, so we thought, why not? Why not talk with Richard Sturban and also ask him, how does he quit being a backup singer with the king of rock and roll, Elvis, to take a chance joining the Oak Ridge Boys? In hindsight, very good decision. But at the time, what would that feel like? So we're going to ask him in just a little bit. We've got a couple of things to go through because the interviews, obviously, are going to take up the lion's share of the program this morning. But there's a few local notes I want to point out and also hopefully at the end of the program get to some news, of course, as Trump went to court yesterday. First, just a quick announcement, and this is out of Irwin. Starting today and the 7th, weather permitting, of course, the town will be paving those roads, and then on the 7th, those roads. So I know there's been a little bit of construction or paving going on in that area, and some people have been asking me, so I thought I would pass that along to you so you will prepare on your way into work this morning and on your way home as well. So there's a quick announcement. Also, I want to put up, as I always do at the beginning of the program, I want to put up my contact information. So if you have any questions for me, comments, concerns, criticisms, please reach out right there. We always get great emails and texts and voicemails throughout the show and throughout the day. And I really appreciate it. I try to read them to you towards the end of the program if we have the opportunity. If not, I'll try to get to them on Monday. So I'd love to know what you think of our interviews with Georgia Verdier and Richard Sturban, separate interviews, and that's coming up in just a little bit. So let's take our first break. I know we're just starting off. Oh, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm not going to go right to that because I'm so excited to be back on at 7 o'clock. I want to highlight next week. And by the way, the Women's World Cup soccer was amazing. So it was really a treat to go on after them. And if you're new to the program because you were watching that soccer action, I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the program. Wait till you see the lineup next week. I'm excited about this. Here we go. I hope you can read it. So Monday, Nick Pelham from the Steuben County Fair. We're going to hear all about the Steuben County Fair. Full disclosure, maybe not the right term to use here. I will be at the Steuben County Fair helping out the Republican booth on Friday of that. It's not next week, the week after, from 2 to 4. So if you want to stop by and say hi, that'd be awesome. Tuesday, we have our representatives from the 4-H program for Cordell Cooperative Extension, Steuben County. They're going to talk about their time at the fair. And then Wednesday, we're going to be talking India Day. That's going to be a lot of fun. That's been going on in Corning now for a very, very long time. And it's an exciting event. And it's Saturday, August 12th. So we're going to hear all about that. And then next Thursday, former congressman and the Steuben County Republican Party chairman, Joe Sempolinski, will be our guest. It's always fun when he's on the program to kind of go back and forth on all the issues of the day. And if you have any questions, by the way, for any of these guests, please contact me. And finally, listen to that one. Friday, Tommy James of Tommy James and the Shondells. That's going to be a big one. So we're having a lot of fun on the program. I hope that you will stay with us because we have to take our first break. And when we come back, pardon me, after that break, we're going to be talking with Georgia Verdier. So please stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and this is the M.A. Neal Financial Services section of our program. And we are being joined by the newest member of the Steuben County Hall of Fame. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
What did that mean to you to be inducted? Because I know the process, and it's not an easy process.
I was simply overwhelmed.
Yeah.
First of all, I was overwhelmed by the people who nominated me,
Right.
The city manager and the sheriff. And when I got a call from the city manager saying, we nominated you for the Hall of Fame, and we didn't call you until we knew you were going to be inducted. So I got double news, and I was just overwhelmed. I was speechless, and that's very odd for me. And so I am so appreciative because I have worked with them for a long time. But when you're working with people, it's work. You don't think about being recognized for that work. And so for them to think enough for me to nominate me and for the committee to induct me, it was just overwhelming. So I am so grateful.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. Obviously, you do so much for the community, and you don't do it for the recognition, but it must be nice to get that recognition.
It is, because many times you get critiqued a lot, but many times you don't get a lot of praise, and that's okay, because when you're working for the community, it's not about praise, it's about getting the job done. But every once in a while, as human beings, we like to hear somebody say, "Thank you, job well done."
We want a pat on the back every once in a while, right?
Yes.
How was the ceremony itself?
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome. The atmosphere was just so warm and so welcoming. You know, many times you can go to something like that and it's well done, all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted, but people are in a hurry to get going and all. People were just relaxed and laughing and clapping, and it was just like, it was a real celebration.
Yeah, isn't that nice? And it was really a stellar class, and it was a smaller class than normal.
Yeah, it was just three of us.
Yeah, and Richard Shear was a dedicated preserver of Steuben County's long history. We mentioned this earlier on the program, but I wanted to highlight. And Henry Marcus Benner, who was basically Glenn Curtis's official photographer. That's kind of neat.
Yes.
Isn't that neat?
Yes.
So a great class, and you had no idea it was coming. What a special way to do it.
I had no idea. I never even thought about it.
Yeah.
I know about the Hall of Fame because I've heard about it over the years, but I never thought about anybody nominating me, and it didn't even cross my mind. So when he called me, it was just such news that I was just there holding the phone.
Right, and it's Steuben County, and I want to ask this. What does this area, Steuben County and the surrounding areas, mean to you?
Steuben County is such a beautiful area. I don't know if you know, I came here from Indiana many years ago, and I find the place fascinating. It's a small town with a big attitude.
That's true.
We are kind of international in scope because of the Corning Incorporated, and so there are people from all over the world here. So there's diversity all over the place. So you can get acquainted with other cultures, other people, and other things. And I find and the hillsides and all of that, it's absolutely beautiful. I have to tell you, this is a joke. When I first came here many years ago, I went up into wine country, and we were just driving and looking, and the people said, and I said, "Oh wow!" I got out of the car and I was just looking, and they said, if you want to stay up here and look at the wine country and the grapes, you can stay here. We'll pick you up on our way back." Everybody does not appreciate all of that, but I like nature, and I just think Steuben County is a beautiful county.
It is. Have you ever been to a prettier place in the fall?
Never.
No.
Never. In fact, when I go down into the city, we talk about it. And one time we took an array of leaves to one of the people in the city to show the beauty. And she said, "What am I supposed to do with this?" So it's amazing how different folks, different strokes, different areas have different appreciations for things.
Yes, but I agree with you. I think it's beautiful. Now, we're talking about the Steuben County Hall of Fame, and I'd recommend that people go to SteubenCountyNY.gov if they want to find out about the nominating process. And it really is a true honor, and I know some people that have gotten in the past, and it's something special about being recognized by your hometown or the town that you live in.
It is. Yeah. It is. It means to me that somebody cares.
Yes, that's right. So I want to talk about you're so active in the community, but obviously a lot of people know you from being the president of the local NAACP. What does that role entail, being the president of the NAACP?
Well, we cover what we call game changers, and that covers many things like healthcare, education, civic engagement, economic development, all types of things that are related to lives in a community, the community and people in the community. But one of our big things is youth development and investment. We hear people talk a lot about youth and how we can help our youth and what they should be doing and all, but I always say, what are you doing to help them? Talk is cheap. You need to invest in them. So we spend a lot of time investing in our youth. We're getting scholarships, school supplies, healthcare supplies, whatever we can. We want tangible things because you can talk the talk, but you need to walk the walk. So that's one of our big game changers.
And that's such a great point because it kind of goes in the line of politics. I know we've been on numerous panels together in the past, but people like to complain but they don't like to put the work in.
Exactly, and that's what I say. You can talk all day, but if you don't do something to make a difference, it's just talk.
That's exactly right. How long have you been involved in the NAACP?
I've been president for 30 years.
Is that right?
Yeah, but I've been involved all of my life because I'm from a family that was in community activists, my mom and my sisters and brothers and all. So we just been out there saying, if you want change, you have to be a change agent. It's not about talk, it's about action.
And how important and I'm sure this must be an amazing event that you hold when you give these scholarships.
Well, we held it 2 weeks ago.
I was going to say,
It was awesome. We brought in numerous youth. We had a dance team, and it consists of 21 young ladies.
Wow.
But we brought in 12 of them, and we gave a Lifetime Achievement Award to a very active community lady, and her grandkids are singers. So we brought them in to sing for her and to sing for us. So we had about 35 kids we sponsored to come and participate on the program, because what we're saying, we're investing in you. Yes, you're going to be participating in giving something back to us, but we want you to know we care. So we normally give them memberships. We underwrote their ticket. We got money to underwrite their tickets and all. So it was wonderful. It was what I call a time for youth investment.
And how often do you hold events like that?
Once we do it annually, and we give scholarship annually. We gave 12 $1,000 scholarships this year, and during COVID, we did the same thing. It was on Zoom, but we said life continues.
Yes.
COVID put us on a new normal, but life continues. So we gave scholarships each year during COVID, and we were able to come back into the community this year.
Isn't that wonderful? We'll be right back with the M.A. Neal Financial Services section of our program. Please stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking on WIDC TV, Big Fox. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WIDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, and we return now to our interview with Georgia Verrier. For those that are unaware, what should people know about our local chapter of the NAACP?
That we care, and we want to have the best community we can have, and it's about all of us. It's not about you saying, well, why don't they do this, or why aren't they doing this? What are you doing to make a difference? And as I said to you and to others, get out there and make a difference. Don't criticize the people who are out there trying to make a difference. Go out there and help them. You might be able to bring some new ideas to the table, some new innovations to the table. Come on out and help us solve the problems, try to solve the problems, or attack the problems that we're having in the community, rather than just looking out the window. Come on out and get in the game. You are either in the game or you're in the bleachers. And if you're in the bleachers just observing, you might be a part of the problem.
That's right. And if you become a member, what does that entail?
It's $30 a year just to be an average member and a regular member, I should say. But we have life members, we have Civil Life, we have Gold Life, and we have Diamond Life. And you can go from one stage to another. I'm a Diamond Life. That's the last category, and because you lead by example. So, but anyway, to be a regular member, $30 a year, and we're online. You can go to NAACP online, or you can call us, and we'll get your memberships in. And because everybody cannot be actively involved physically, but if you get a memberships represent the lifeblood of the organization, so you can still help us that way.
I like how you said lead by example, but you're the 2018 New York NAACP Presidential Award winner.
Yeah.
So how many awards do you have at your house? There's just a whole room full of them, or no?
Oh, for the NAACP, a whole room full, and the biggest one for the branch is called the Thalhammer Award, and that's for branch activities, and we have about 15 or 20 of those.
Wow.
And so that's the biggest award a branch can get, because we have to send, the NAACP does not play. You can't just call them and say, oh, we did this or we did it. You have to prove it.
Oh, sure.
You have to send them documentation, flyers, the whole nine, and show them that you are doing what you're saying you're doing.
And that's the right way to do it, too.
Yes.
Because then when people, like you said, lead by example, when people see the amazing work you're doing in the community, hopefully spark some interest in them to get involved.
Yes.
And if you're faking it, you can tell. People can tell.
Oh, exactly, because people have told us if we're going to invest in you, we have to see what you're doing to rate our investment. It's not about you per se; it's about what you're doing. And we will be doing our school supply giveaway next month on the 19th in Elmira, and we give away school supplies every year. It's all about helping the young people, investing in them, and saying, if we're going to open the door, be ready to walk through.
That's right. And how can we help? Become a member, but do you also take donations towards scholarships and
Yes,
school supplies?
in fact, CMOG put out boxes at their place, and
that's
they
great.
have people, and they co-sponsor, and they let people know what we're doing, and people can make a contribution that way. Yeah, people can make contributions. They want this year. I just heard that the school will be giving out basic supplies, but not backpacks. So
Okay.
we're going to concentrate on backpacks as much as possible, and you know how expensive they are. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. So when you enter school, you're getting the basic supplies now?
I'm
Is
sorry.
that when you join school, the first day of the school year, you're getting basic supplies now?
That's what they said. That
No
just
kidding.
came on the news this week. And they did it last year, too.
Oh.
They're giving out the basic supplies from kindergarten through 12th grade, but they're not giving out any backpacks. So they're saying to us, to other people, I'm sure, who normally give supplies, you can concentrate on backpacks this year. And that is good because with the cost of things, that means we can get more backpacks than we normally would if we were trying to buy holistic school supplies.
Right, that's true. Now, like I said, you're so involved in the community, NAACP, but so many other organizations. How is it that you find that you keep your passion for doing these things?
Just observing what's going on in the world. You can complain all day, but if you don't do anything to make a difference, you're just going to be complaining. And I'm not a complainer. I'm a doer. I'm an activist, and I believe each one reach one, each one teach one. Get out there and do something to make a difference. I believe everyone can take a few steps in the community to make a difference. So I'm just not a complainer, and I do whatever I can do to make a difference.
Just before we go, what would you say to encourage somebody to get more involved in this amazing community?
I would just encourage people to take a look at yourself. Sometimes we think, well, I wish I had something to offer. You do. You might have time, you might have money, you might have good suggestion. Whatever your blessings might be, share that with somebody. Share it with your community. And so you can go to sleep at night and say, I made a difference.
What a great message. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. And again, congratulations on the Steuben County Hall of Fame.
Thank you so much. I'm so proud.
All right. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us. And we are back, Frankly Speaking, here on WYDC TV, Big Fox, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. I got distracted because I just got 2 waves. Appreciate that. You can always call me, contact me. Thank you to everybody, by the way, who just contacted me during that interview. What'd you think? Georgia Verdier, always nice to talk with her. We've got Richard Sturman coming up in just a moment from the Oak Ridge Boys. And as you saw, if you watched from the beginning of the broadcast, we have an amazing lineup next week, so you'll have to tune in. No time effect because of Women's World Cup Soccer. We will be on all next week at 7 a.m., and there's only one more time we'll be affected by that, and I'll let you know. And then you can tune in after the coverage. Okay, we are going to that interview in just a moment. I just had to mention this real quickly. Obviously, the big story of the day yesterday. Trump goes to court. The media is abuzz because the judge called him Mr. Trump, not President Trump. And, you know, the media, in typical fashion, gloating, saying, if there's one thing I know, Trump loves that he's called Mr. President now. ABC executive editorial producer John Santucci tweeted, no mention of Donald Trump being former president. No special treatment. Treating him as just another man in a courtroom. This is the rule of law at its best. Okay. I will say, whatever you think of that, I do think that Henry Rogers had a very good point. Every other president would have been addressed as president, not Mr. Let's be real. You do have to look at it that way. So to a lot of people, this signals already a bias in the court, kind of knocking the former president down a peg right from the beginning. It's interesting. I don't know if it's worth covering for a long time, but it's definitely, is it an early signal of what's to come? Also, I've got to ask this question because we have brilliant people that watch this program. And I don't understand at this point. It's actually kind of a hobby of mine, if I'm going to be honest. I don't understand why courtroom drawings are still so prevalent. Now, I know there's not media in the court. I know you can't take pictures and like that with your cell phone. But is it even beneficial at this point? Is this that you're about to see necessary to convey what happened yesterday? Not necessary? What does that do, one way or the other, to yesterday's court proceedings? I always find it very strange, but I guess if that's the only media, I guess, or only visual you have, but is that really a visual from the court? No. They're normally all very, very similar. Maybe you know this as well. I don't know this. I haven't done the research. Is it the same person for all of these? They can't be traveling around that much. So you're not allowed to take a picture with your cell phone, which I think is right. Media's not allowed to be there. But you still have that person attend. It just fascinated me. So I want to hear from you on that because obviously that's the biggest issue of yesterday's court proceedings. But we're going to talk about that after our interview. Not anymore about the drawing. We're going to talk about actual nitty gritty stuff. But that's coming up after our interview with Richard Sturman from the Oak Ridge Boys. You can of course find out more at oakridgeboys.com. They're playing at the Point of the Bluff Vineyards tomorrow. So you can find out more about that at oakridgeboys.com. And we're going to hear about his amazing career, the Oak Ridge Boys' amazing career. That's coming up after this. So please stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I am honored to be joined by Richard Sturman from the Oak Ridge Boys. Thank you so much for being on the program.
Well, Frank, it's my pleasure to be able to talk to you and all your fine viewers out there. I'm certainly looking forward to it.
Well, what do you think it is? Because I just read that you celebrated your 50th year as an Oak Ridge Boy. Why do you think you've lasted so long?
Well, I think there are several reasons for that. I think first and foremost, it's the fact that we love doing what we do. That's first and foremost. Even after 50 years, we still look forward to getting on stage, taking our music live to our fans and to our audiences. That has not changed. And so that's a main factor. I think there's a special relationship that exists between the four of us, where each man is different. Each man brings something different to the table, so to speak, but I think that's part of our appeal as well. And I think over the years we've learned to respect that difference. We become the best of friends, and I think we realized a long time ago that we need each other. So we pulled together as a team.
Right.
We're a true brotherhood. We also love the creative process of recording new music. We're not being produced by a gentleman named Dave Cobb.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's got to be such an honor.
If you're familiar with the music scene in Nashville, he's one of the hottest guys in town.
Yeah.
He really is. And he's producing the Oak Ridge Boys now, and we're creating new music. That's very exciting. So new music puts new life and new energy into us, so that's part of the factor as well. Our history, I think, is a big part of it. We've got history like no other group in the music business, I think. It goes back to the Second World War. There was a group known as the Georgia Clodhoppers. This is a fact. They would go to Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and actually entertain the people there and the kids and everything that they were stationed there because they could not leave for security reasons because they were working on top secret stuff. They were, working on the development of the atomic bomb.
Wow.
It was called the Manhattan Project. Wow. And the Georgia Clodhoppers had a security clearance. They could go in. As a result of going all the time, they changed their name to the Oak Ridge Quartet. Wow. And I think that's a group that needed a name change, probably.
Yes.
And the group became regulars on the Friday Night Grand Ole Opry here at the old Ryman Auditorium in Nashville. And then later on, the guys left the group and younger guys took the group over. They changed the name to Oak Ridge Boys, which we've obviously retained to this present day. William Lee Golden, he's the guy in our group with the long beard.
Yeah, of course.
He joined in 1965. Dwayne Allen, our lead singer, came 1 year later in 1966. I joined in 1972. I happened to be singing with the king of rock and roll back then. I was singing with Elvis.
Wow.
I left Elvis joined the Oak Ridge Boys, and Joe came 1 year later in 1973, and our history is something that's really important to us, and we don't want it to end. So I think that's also another factor, and we don't plan to retire. We have to be realistic. We're probably going to slow down a little bit, but we're not going to retire. We're going to keep doing what it is that we love doing, and we're certainly looking forward to coming your way.
Yes, you're going to be at the Point of the Bluff Vineyards this Saturday. Find out more at oakridgeboys.com. And you mentioned the new album, Front Porch Singing. What goes in after being together for that many years? How do you know which songs to pick? Is it a session that you say, I want this song, almost like you're drafting in the NFL?
Well, I told you that we work with Dave Cobb.
Yeah.
And he's an exciting guy to work with, and he gets very involved in the selection process of material. And he called us. We actually recorded this project a few years ago during the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
All the studios were closed down, but he called us and he said, I think we can record now. And he works at probably the most historic recording studio here in town, RCA Studio A. He works right out there. He works out of Chet Atkins' old office.
Wow.
It's pretty amazing, really. Yeah. But he said we can record. We just have to abide by the protocols, social distancing and all that stuff. He said, but what I want to do, I want to capture the feeling of four guys just gathering on a front porch and just singing in a very casual way, a very informal way. And so we said, let's try to find some songs that fit that criteria. And we found some old songs, some familiar songs that people will recognize, that they can sing along with, that work into this front porch singing format. And then Dave Cobb has a working relationship with some of the new young songwriters here in town. They wrote some brand new songs especially for us. So it's a nice mixture. It's a nice balance of old and new. But the most important thing, Dave Cobb, who's a genius, he captured that feeling of four guys gathering on a front porch in a very informal way. And on our show now, when we come your way, along with all the hits we're going to do, you can count on the fact you're going to hear me do Giddy Up, Boom, Papa, Mau Mau. That's going to happen. Along with all the hits, for a while, we're going to turn our stage into a front porch and do some of this music as well, because it's very inspirational kind of music, the kind of stuff we need to hear in this day and age with all the problems we have going on here in our country.
And that's why it's so fantastic that you recorded during the height of COVID, because it must have meant even more to you at that time.
It really did. We for over a year, what we loved doing was kind of taken away from us.
Right.
We couldn't get together, and finally we were able, after not having seen each other for several months, to get together in the studio. It was a special time. It was kind of like a celebration. It really was, and we're happy with the way it turned out.
That's great. I have to go back to a question that popped in my mind. You mentioned that you were playing with the King of Rock and Roll before joining the Oak Ridge Boys. You couldn't have known you'd be with the Oak Ridge Boys for 50 years. So was that a difficult decision to make?
Well, it was an interesting decision, the best way I can put it. Here I was, a young guy, apparently on top of the world, singing with the biggest star in the world back then, Elvis, the king of rock and roll. I get a phone call one day, and it's a phone call that changed my life. It was William Lee Golden of the Oak Ridge Boys. Now, he's the guy in our group with the long beard. He's probably the most recognizable character in the group. But back then, he did not have that long beard. He was Mr. GQ. He really was. But he called me and he said the bass singer in the Oak Ridge Boys was leaving the group, and the Oak Ridge Boys wanted to know if I would be interested in joining the group. So here I was, apparently on top of the world, singing with the king of rock and roll, but I had to make a decision, like, what do I do? And I have to admit that I was a big fan of the Oak Ridge Boys. I loved the music they were making. I collected their records, and I really felt like the group had a great deal of potential, and I wanted to be a part of it. So in 1972, I made a decision that actually changed my life. I left Elvis, joined the Oak Ridge Boys, and back then a lot of people questioned that decision. How could you do that? but I really believe deep down in my heart I was doing the right thing. And now 50 years later, when I look back on the great career we've had, I think I made a pretty good decision back then.
I would agree. It just must feel really strange for people to hear someone say they left Elvis. Do you know what I mean? That almost sounds, it doesn't sound like something you can do.
It doesn't sound like something that would be possible.
Yeah.
But I said I kind of followed my heart.
Yeah.
I really believed I was doing the right thing. And now 50 years later, I kind of
You're
look
right.
back and I think it was good. You know, back then when I was singing with Elvis, I was a young guy in my 20s, standing in the dark most of the time, you know, oohing and eyeing and singing background harmonies. I never dreamed that someday I would actually be in the Country Music Hall of Fame together with Elvis here. And you never know how things happen in your life, but that's the way it happened with me personally. And if you walk into that rotunda here in the Country Music Hall of Fame, it's a very special place. Yes. You'll see the four faces of the Oak Ridge Boys in bronze. Look down the hall just a little ways, you'll see Elvis's face there in bronze, along with, you know, Dolly Parton, you know, Kenny Rogers, you know, Johnny Cash, you know, some of the biggest names ever in country music. For the Oak Ridge Boys to be there is a very special thing. But as I said, I never dreamed back then when I was singing with Elvis that would have happened to me or the four Oak Ridge Boys. But we've been very fortunate, been very blessed.
We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking in the M.A. Neal Financial Services section of our program. After this, please stay with us. And we are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. This is the M.A. Neal Financial Services section of our program, and we return to our talk with Richard Sturban. Well, and you mentioned the Country Music Hall of Fame. What did that mean to you when you got that acceptance, extra acceptance by your peers?
Well, that is very, you know, there's not a higher honor. If you sing country songs for a living, there's not a higher honor than being inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. It's very special. You know, when you look at that family of artists, you know, it's mind-boggling. Right. You see our name mentioned with those people, you know, there's not words to describe it hardly. It's so very, very special. The only thing that comes pretty close is a few years before that, we were inducted as members of the Grand Ole Opry. Now, that's also something that's very special here in Nashville. You know, when we walk into that building and we see our name on the wall with all the other names, to be a part of that family of artists is also very special. And it's just kind of mind-boggling that, you know, we're members of both the Country Music Hall of Fame and the Grand Ole Opry.
And the history of the Grand Ole Opry, what was it like the night that you got inducted?
Well, you know, it's kind of interesting. We were inducted by Little Jimmy Dickens.
Oh.
He's passed on a few years
how
ago.
perfect.
But he was a, you know, a major member, you know, of the Grand Ole Opry. And I remember, you know, for several years we sang on the Opry, and we were not members. I remember one night we were singing on the Opry, and we just finished doing one of our songs. I think it was "Y'all Come Back Saloon" or something like that.
Yeah.
After the song, there was a lot of applause, but the applause continued. It would not stop, and we couldn't figure out what was going on. We looked around, and here came Little Jimmy Dickens walking out onto the stage.
Yeah.
He was dressed like William Lee Golden. He had this long gray beard, dark sunglasses, cowboy hat, you know. And I think Joe said, "Little Jimmy, you look like you could be a member of the Oak Ridge Boys." He said, "Well, I'll tell you what, I'm about to become a member of the Oak Ridge Boys because the Oak Ridge Boys are about to become members of the Grand Ole Opry." And I'll tell you, we all looked at each other, and I don't think we had a dry eye. You know? It was a very special experience, to say the least.
So I guess most people would ask, what's left to conquer? You guys have done it all.
Well, you know, let me say this. We do not plan to retire.
Right.
You know, during the pandemic, I already mentioned this, during the pandemic, what we loved doing was taken away from us. We missed being the Oak Ridge Boys. We missed singing. We missed performing. But what we miss more than that is the feedback that we get from our fans. That's so important to us. And now that we're experiencing it again, we want it to continue. I think we have to be realistic. We're not kids any longer, but we're going to keep doing this as long as the good Lord above will allow us to do it, as long as we keep experiencing good health. And we're all feeling pretty good for our age. We're going to keep doing it, and we do not plan to retire.
Well, you sound great, and I know there's always fan favorites. You mentioned Elvira, obviously. Do you have a favorite that you perform every night?
If I had to pick a favorite Oak Ridge Boys song, I would probably have to say one of our most requested songs, Thank God for Kids. It was written by a good friend of ours named Eddie Raven, who was a great artist in his own right. And he actually wrote it for our first Christmas album. He said, I don't know if this song, he came into the studio one day, he said, I don't know if this song will fit what you guys are doing. He said, but I think it's a special song. We heard it, and we said, yes, we've got to record this song. And William Lee Golden every night sings that song, and he has a way about him. He knows how to interpret a lyric and then communicate the lyric to an audience. And he does that every night when he performs Thank God for Kids. And you can tell when you look out there, you look into the audience, you can tell it's touching people. It's moving people. You know, see people hugging their kids, people holding hands, tears in people's eyes. You can tell it's a special moment. So if I had to try to answer your question, I would say William Lee Golden singing Thank God for Kids.
Now, I know since we scheduled this interview, I've had Elvira specifically stuck in my head. Do you ever get that song stuck in your head, or because you performed it so many times that it's second nature?
Well, the answer to your question is both.
Yeah.
Yes, I still sing it quite often, but it becomes second nature after a while. You know, we've done it for so many years. But I will say this. For me personally, one of the most fun things about that song, and it will happen again when we come your way, when we get to that song, and I get to that giddy up, boom, papa, mau, mau part, I love looking out into the audience and seeing most of the men trying to sing along with me. That's a lot of fun.
Oh, that's great. And the Oak Ridge Boys will be at Point of the Bluff Vineyards this Saturday. Just before we go, for anybody on the fence, what is a typical concert like with the Oak Ridge Boys?
Well, you're going to hear a lot of the songs that you expect to hear.
Right.
I already mentioned the fact you will definitely hear me do Giddy Up, Boom,
Sure.
Papa, Mau, Mau. That's the law. You know,
Yeah.
the Oak Ridge Boys have to sing.
Yeah, they have to.
But I already mentioned Thank God for Kids.
Right.
You know, our first hit ever, Y'all Come Back Saloon,
Exactly.
American Made. A lot of the songs you expect to hear will be on the show, the hit song. But we already talked about Dave Cobb, you know, producing Front Porch Singing.
Yeah.
For a while,
Right.
we're going to attempt to turn our stage into a front porch
great.
and sing some of those songs because they're very meaningful songs. Right. They're very inspirational in nature. We're patriotic guys. We love this country. We'll honor our troops and our veterans. But just a good night of great country music and family entertainment. That's really what the Oak Ridge Boys are all about.
Just because you mentioned it, popped in my head. Do you think if you didn't play Elvira one night, there would be a riot?
I think we would be arrested.
Yes. Well, Richard Sturban, thank you.
I mentioned earlier it's the law.
Yeah.
When the Oak Ridge Boys
It's
come down, they must sing Elvira.
Well, this has been great. Thank you for giving us so much time, and I can't wait to see the show at Point of the Bluff Vineyards this Saturday.
Well, Frank, thank you for promoting the fact that we're coming your way. When you do that, you help us, and we all appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Well, next time you're in the area, can I talk again with you?
Let's plan on it. Let's do it.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us. We are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. Boy, that was a lot of fun talking to both Georgia Verdier earlier and Richard Sturban from the Oak Ridge Boys. What an amazing story. There's not everybody that can say they quit Elvis. That's amazing. All right, we have to take a short break before we wrap up, but I wanted to get to a couple of text messages and emails that I received during our interview and during a few breaks. So let's go through each one individually. We'll go to the first one. Poor artists do caricatures. Well, their words, not mine. Poor liars make a White House press secretary. That's a very good point. That's in reference to our. I just got to say it's bizarre to me. It is not newsworthy to bring it up, but it's bizarre to me that's still relevant in the news and everywhere this morning. Not that specific one, but all the courtroom drawings. Okay, the next text we'll go to. History will show that one of the greatest achievements of President Trump was exposing the deep state and corruption. Thank you for sending that in. And then the final one, great interview, very enthusiastic. One can see why she's been president for so many years. That's in reference to Georgia Verdier. Thank you. And I agree, she is a great person. I've done many political events with her, and I really enjoy talking with her. And when I heard that she was in the Steuben County Hall of Fame, and rightfully so, I wanted to talk to her about that, because that is the Steuben County and Chemung County Historical Societies just do amazing jobs. And it's not a very, well, I was going to say it's not a very difficult nomination process, but but you have to put time and effort into it, and they have a long procedure with that. But you can find it on Steuben County's website if there's anybody you would like to nominate for the Hall of Fame. So let's take our last short break, and then we will be back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us. We are back. I was going through my paperwork there before coming back from break, because I wanted to get to all the last minute relevant things here as we wrap up. Again, thank you to everybody who joined us this morning, our guests, and also thank you to everyone who reached out to comment about whether it's an interview, about the topics of the day. Trump did vow, I guess you could say, revenge on his social media truth. He said, but soon in 2024, it will be our turn, MAGA. And that was all in caps. A little ominous there. There are a lot of critics in the media questioning and criticizing that statement. Kevin McCarthy, Speaker of the House, said that, if CNN said it was falsely compares Trump's stolen election claims to Clinton and Gore. I like that's in the headlines now. Falsely claims. But were any of them prosecuted? Kevin McCarthy said. Were any of them put in jail? Were any of them held with no response to be able to get out? The answer is no. You are entitled to raise a question. You're entitled to question whether it was honest or not. That's the uniqueness of the First Amendment. That's the uniqueness of America. But you know what? You shouldn't be prosecuted for your thoughts. And then, unlike Clinton and Gore, Trump, unlike Clinton and Gore, continued to perpetrate the false claims that he actually won the 2020 election. Wait. Oh, so we said it more. Al Gore on Bill Maher's show in 2017 talked about how he won Florida, which would ultimately mean he won the election. So I'm not really, and that's factually not true if you look into the research of even the most liberal counting of the Chads. You remember that? Still had Bush winning, but we don't want to go back and relitigate that. It's just amazing now to me that headlines can say falsely. And that the reason it's false is because Trump said it more. That doesn't negate the First Amendment. But I do just find that really interesting how everything's been worded with this. Everything is citing a riot, trying to think of the term insurrection, all of those. And then there's a piece somehow criticizing Republicans on CNN this morning about using harmful rhetoric. It's all kind of fascinating how the media can twist themselves in the pretzel to not see their own, I guess, faults or their own part in this divide. There's such a divided country, and the media plays such an important part in that, pushing the divide further and further. But there's a piece, and it's all the way back from November of 2021. But just to go back to that little comment by David Harsanyi at National Review, Al Gore wasn't a man about losing. And it goes through and highlights how he was, if you remember at the time, sore loser. It was the term. Oh my goodness, we are out of time. Thank you to our guests, Richard Sturban and Georgia Verdier, for being on the program. Thank you for everyone who joined us and reached out. I appreciate it. I hope you have a great weekend. We have an amazing lineup next week, so I hope that you will tune in starting at 7 a.m. for Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, I know I'm looking forward to it already. We'll see you then.